the night John Wayne let the legend fall away. The lights of the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson were shining brightly that night. But when John Wayne walked onto the stage, something felt different. The audience erupted in applause. There stood the man America had watched for decades. The cowboy, the soldier, the tough guy with the unmistakable voice and the legendary walk. Johnny Carson smiled and welcomed him. "Duke, it's good to see you." John Wayne smiled back. "Good to be here, Johnny." The audience laughed. Everything seemed normal. But beneath that familiar smile was a man carrying memories that few people could see. Wayne had spent his life playing men who never seemed afraid, men who stood tall when everyone else ran, men who could ride into the sunset without looking back. But that night, Carson slowly moved the conversation away from movies. He asked Wayne about life, about getting older, about the people he had lost along the way. For a moment, Wayne's smile disappeared. He looked down. The studio became unusually quiet. Then he said softly, "You know, Johnny, after you've been around a long time, you start realizing that the people you miss become more important than the places you've been." Carson didn't interrupt. Wayne continued, "You remember the voices, the little things, someone laughing in the kitchen, someone calling your name from another room." His voice became quieter. "I guess that's what happens when you get old." The audience was silent. There was no cowboy character now. No movie hero. Just John Wayne. A father. A friend. A man who had lived long enough to understand that fame couldn't bring anyone back. Carson leaned toward him. "Do you ever get lonely, Duke?" Wayne paused. Then he gave a small smile. "Sure." That one word seemed heavier than anything he had said all evening. He looked toward the audience. "You can have thousands of people cheering for you, and still miss one person sitting beside you at the dinner table." Carson lowered his eyes. The laughter had disappeared completely. Wayne took a slow breath. "I've played a lot of tough guys, Johnny, but nobody teaches you how to say goodbye." For several seconds, neither man spoke. Then Carson reached over and gently touched Wayne's arm. The gesture said everything. The audience began applauding, not the loud, excited applause from earlier, but something slower and deeper. Wayne looked around the studio. He seemed almost embarrassed by the emotion. "Well," he said with a faint grin, "I suppose we better talk about something cheerful before I make everybody cry." The audience laughed through their tears. Carson smiled. "That's the Duke I know." Wayne laughed softly. And for a moment, the heaviness lifted. But before the segment ended, Carson asked one final question. "When people remember John Wayne, what do you hope they remember?" Wayne thought carefully. Then he answered, "I hope they remember that I tried." Carson nodded. Wayne continued, "I wasn't perfect. Nobody is, but I tried to be a good man. I tried to love my family. I tried to do right by my friends." He looked toward Carson. "And if somebody remembers me that way, that's enough." The applause that followed was enormous. John Wayne stood slowly. Carson stood with him. The two men shook hands. Then Carson pulled him into a brief embrace. For just a moment, the legendary cowboy disappeared completely. There were no cameras, no movie posters, no Hollywood lights. Just two old friends sharing a quiet moment beneath the studio lights. Wayne walked toward the curtain. The audience continued applauding. He stopped, turned around, and gave them that famous smile one more time. Then he disappeared backstage. Years later, people would remember John Wayne for the horses, the westerns, the battles, the unforgettable voice, and the characters who never surrendered. But perhaps his most human moments were the quiet ones. The moments when the legend became simply a man. A man who knew that life passes quickly. A man who understood that fame fades. A man who knew that eventually every hero has to say goodbye. And that night on Johnny Carson's stage, John Wayne didn't need a horse, a gun, or a movie script. He only needed to be himself. And for millions watching, that was more powerful than any role he had ever played. Because behind the legend was a human being. And behind the tough voice was a heart that could still break. The lights eventually went down. The applause faded. But the memory remained. John Wayne had spent a lifetime playing heroes. That night, he showed America something even greater. The courage to be human,